I know. If you're a medical professional, an independent one anyways, you need to have a website. And it seems simple, but man, it's frustrating because there's always somebody trying to call you and give you some kind of a sales pitch about, your site's not fast enough or you're not ADA compliant, and it's hard to know what's true and what's false. And there's so much BS out there that, if it's not your profession, I kind of feel, like I understand where you're coming from. And it's a big topic. And the reality is that, yes, there are things you need to be worried about. You need to be compliant with, like HIPAA, some ADA things, and it is important that your site is fast. But a lot of it gets overhyped and it gets used as a sales pitch to you, which actually ends up creating a lot more problems than it solves, when really it's not a big deal to begin with, and it just throws everything into a tailspin. And typically it's coming from a salesperson who knows like one piece of a larger whole, and maybe they've had a friend, an engineer, a sales manager that has told them, look, this is how you can go into a doctor's office and convert them on a website. I could talk about examples all day long. But I just had this happen to me today, and I needed to spend some time addressing it with a client of a client, because I don't typically work directly with healthcare providers, dentists, or doctors. I typically provide services to somebody who works with these doctors. And so they come to me with like, hey, my client's being approached with this sales pitch. What's a response? Today's example was all about ADA compliance. Is it something you need to be concerned about? Absolutely. Is it something that's hard to do? No, not really. But what makes it particularly scary is that, they can make you feel like you're going to get sued as a healthcare professional. And since it's America and it's a very litigious society, and then, and you're in the healthcare field and lawyers assume that you have money to spend. And so, yeah, there's people out there that can legitimately use this as a scare tactic. But the reality is, what do you really need? Well, let me try to just give you some simple facts that will allow you to kind of like have a more sensitive bullshit meter around this thing. I'll tell you what happened with this one particular client as a bit of a story, and I'll show you some examples here. Client has a website. Sales guy looks at the website and says, oh my God, you're not ADA compliant. Probably ran, an online test that you would see from Google. Let me share a screen here, and then maybe we can actually find a test where we could do that. I don't know. Let's just pull up any old site. I don't know. Let's take bnhphotovideo.com. I like this website. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up something called Developer Tools. And this may look like a bunch of nonsense to you, but I can go to Developer Tools and I can run this little thing called Axe Dev Tools. I don't need Pro. And I'm just going to scan this page. And what it's going to do is it's going to look at your web page and it's going to come back with a bunch of issues that you may need to address. And in this case, you can see, oh my gosh, this tool found 141 critical issues that need to be tested. I mean, if this was a doctor website, that could potentially be frightening, because you're looking at it and you're saying, oh no, I need to be ADA compliant. It's the law, and I have 141 problems. But you don't really know what that means. And most likely the sales guy doesn't know what it means. All the sales guy knows is, look, here's 141. This 141 number is a great scare number, inflated number I can use to go in and say, hey, we can make your website better. We can help keep you from getting sued if you just work with us. Let's just start small. Let's start with a test. Give us access to your website. We'll test it and we'll come back and give you some recommendations. Well, that recommendation is going to come back with we need to redo your entire site. We need to take over all of your marketing. And 9 times out of 10, you don't need that. It's kind of a BS desperate tactic. And I've seen it 100 times, 1,000 times, and I've seen it work many, many times as well. Now, look, this is a e-commerce camera site. Let's just check out something like, I don't know, let's look at best dentist in LA. And I don't know, I'll find anybody. I have no affiliation, by the way, with this person. I'm just pulling up a random website that I'm finding here. And I'm going to shut this down, close this, and let's just take another look. Totally random look here. Pull up XDev Tools. Let's scan these pages and see what we come back with. 19 issues. Serious. 19 serious issues. Oh, that is super scary. Let's take a deeper dive on this, though. Let's look at these 19 issues. Elements must meet minimum color contrast ratio. Okay. What if I click this button to say, there's a button on here that'll allow me to actually highlight these elements? Let's do that. Okay. It says this is not quite the right contrast. What else have we got here? Scrolling down, we're going to see some more. Oh, I guess I can just click on them here. The reality is that just really, oh wait, here's a clicker here. Okay. Hey, look at that. That's light text on an H. That to me, it doesn't really seem like it's actually that big of a problem. If I were to click through all of these, you might be able to make some sort of minor adjustments to these, but in reality, this is nothing that anybody's going to legitimately, really be able to see. Like, look at these on the bottom here. Website designed by whoever this is, Centrium International Limited, right? So most of these issues are listed. They're just really non-issues. Let's see. Links must have discernible text. Let's take a look at that. Where are you? There you go. It's a G+. All right. So doing manually testing these things is actually revealing that, honestly, not so much of a problem. And this is actually testing against, if you look here, and this is something you're not going to know, it's testing against WCAG 2.1 AA testing. In reality, you're probably fine being single A tested, but all this means is that WCAG is kind of the testing standard. I forget what the name stands for. I could look it up. 2.1, and then there's 3 levels. There's level 1, which gets you compliant with a certain list of criteria. There's level 2, which includes those criteria, and then also expands to a few more criteria. And then there's level 3, which gets even more expansive. For a small to medium-sized dental practice or basic practice, being WCAG 2.1 compliant, you're likely totally fine. If there's some real serious glaring issues, like you got white text on a white background and you're not using, some reasonable structure to your website, like having proper headers and things like that, then maybe you would have an issue, but you would know that because your website would look terrible to begin with. It's pretty obvious to just any user looking at it that, like, look, your website needs a little bit of help. So this is actually more of a real independent tool. And by the way, this is a totally free tool. This Axe tool, in fact, is one, and I pulled it up over here. It comes from a company, DeQ, and this is a tool that is used by Microsoft, by Google, and in fact, for Google, if I go back and look at this website, there's a very common tool that website developers use called Lighthouse. People test with Lighthouse all the time. It's a tool made by Google to help test performance, to help test accessibility, to look for best practices, to crawl your site and see if it's got good SEO implementation. And this particular one here, the accessibility tools, if I analyze this page using this Google provided tool, it's actually utilizing under the hood the DQ, Axe, Core tools. So there you go, 81%. And then it's giving you the same thing we saw before, some background colors, some links that don't have a discernible name. If you're looking at this and you're, anywhere above 80, good score. So here's a tactic a salesperson's going to take. 191 issues. We have a big problem. We need to take a look at this. One of the asks that they may give to you is put us in touch with your current agency. Ask your current agency if they can give us a copy of your database, if they can give us a copy of your code. Effectively, what they're really trying to do is just get themselves into a position where they could take that database, take that code, and then just completely take that site, host it somewhere else, get under there, find any other problems that are really meaningless, but are more good sales pitches, so that they can convert you to one of their customers and then take you away from the current agency that you're working with. Now, look, if you're unhappy with your current agency for other reasons, fine, take a listen. If this is coming out of the blue for you, this isn't anything that I would let set off alarm bells. And if you're worried, if it is setting off alarm bells, what can you do? Well, call the people you're working with and say, listen, I got this request. I'm not sure if there's any legitimacy to this or not. Can you just give me like a quick, can you just give me like a quick audit using standard tools? And if your developer is any good, they're gonna pull up Lighthouse and share the score with you. And it's just as easy as what I showed you, right? You go to the website, go to your own website. You do this today if you want to. Open up Google Chrome, go to your own website. Am I recording? I am recording. Good. This is a long one if I was messing this up. Go to your website, and let me show you if you're on a Mac, I'm going to do this on a Mac. You can, I'm not showing the top of my screen, but let's say you're on your website, you see at the top of the screen, there's going to be, I believe it's like view, in the view menu under developer, go to developer tools. And maybe this sounds a bit nerdy, but look, you're a doctor. If you're a dentist, if you could do a root canal, you could do this. If you can't, ask your kid or your practice manager or your nerdy friend to take a look at it for you. But, go to developer tools, and there's a shortcut to it. You can go Option Command I, but you can go through the menu as well. In developer tools, you're going to see all these like little links along the top here. If you don't see it, there's these little arrows here. Pull those down and go to Lighthouse. Go to Lighthouse Dev Tools and run an accessibility test. Click Analyze the page. You know what I think about it? There's another way you can do this too. If I just take that URL, I believe you can go to Google, blah, blah, blah. Here we go. And you can go to, let's call it online Lighthouse test. This will take you right to, there you go. Page speed insights from Google. Try page speed insights. This is Google, web.dev/message. Oh, look, it's right from Google. Most likely, this is what your sales guy did anyways. He just went to this on Google and he was like, aha, let me see who I can find today. I want to find some BS bad performance and some scary numbers and go out and sell to some unsuspecting dentists today. I know that because I've worked with sales guys who've done it in the past. So let's see. Let's try it, shall we? All right, let's try it. Let's do the same address and see what we get for results. I mean, now you don't have to worry about all the Lighthouse stuff in your Chrome browser. If you're on Windows or whatever, just go here. Page speed insights. Let's analyze it. I should get some Jeopardy music here. It's going to test mobile because it always tests mobile first. I'm going to do another podcast, by the way, on performance, because what I'm talking about today with accessibility, I feel like is more scary because they're kind of able to threaten you with lawyers. But with the performance, man, it's easy to show terrible numbers on performance, and there's a lot of ways to game that. You should just never listen to people when they talk to you about the performance of your website. It's such a racket, and it's way more complex than you could ever get your head around anyways. So look at, here you go. You'll see your score, 73%, right? And take a look at that and see. If you're like in the red for accessibility, maybe ask your folks to take a look at it. Say, hey, I saw this. But if accessibility scare tactics are the only thing the sales guy is coming to you with, then it's probably just BS, and you just kick them out of your office, delete the email, hang up the phone. If you are concerned about it, step one, don't put your agency that you're working with on the defensive. Don't go to your agency and say like, oh my God, this guy's, everything's blowing up. Oh my God, I need a second opinion. We're all going to die. It's not the case. The incentive of this sales guy is to find any way to like motivate you to move. If they're coming to you with more legitimate things like, hey, I think we need to tune for AI. I think we need to think about your content strategy. I think we need to look at some real numbers. I think we need to analyze, what your goals are for your website. I think we need to talk about, some real problems or some real solutions. Great, maybe listen to them. But if all they've got are some scare tactics from some report that's talking about accessibility or performance scores, 9 times out of 10, it's just scary sales tactics, and it just wastes everybody's time, including yourself. As you can tell, I'm not bitter about this at all. Look, to be honest, I've fired clients over this. I've been like, look, if you're going to call me every week and make me jump through hoops to justify a lot of the, to justify, the way we did things or what these scores are, where there's been clear business trade-offs. You want an animation here, so of course the performance score is going to be a little bit lower. Or maybe you didn't like the way certain headers looked, or there's some design elements that you want on a website, so you sacrifice a little bit on performance or accessibility. That's not critical for this. And then you do those things, and then it turns out that every week or 2 weeks you're getting a phone call and they're like, hey, the world's on fire. I need you to figure out why this is happening. Blow this up, and fix this. At a certain, first couple of times, great, fine, happy to help. But the reality is like, it's just not worth dealing with that. And I've just said like, look, if you're that, I just fire a client over that and let them go. So if anything, constantly going to your agency with that is gonna put your relationship with them at risk. And while you are the customer of the agency, the reality is hopefully you picked somebody who has your best interest in mind to begin with, and you work with them on you trust them and they trust you, and you work together to achieve results you're looking for. So that's that. Scores for ADA compliance. What else do I want to say about that? Let me wrap up with this. ADA compliance, you do need to make sure your site is usable by folks, right? Don't use crappy colors. Don't use white on white. Don't use red on green text, so on and so on. I hope you're not picking those kinds of colors. And I hope when you went through a design process with with your agency, that they gave you a good design that's easy to read and the text is large enough. You know, if you're an eye doctor and you've got itty bitty teeny tiny Bible sized text, like, come on, that should never go by. But there's two kinds of testing that can be done for ADA compliance. One is automated tests or computer-based tests, and that's what I'm showing you here. Let's go back to that. You know, this is running a test based on what it can scrape from your website, totally automated. For small to medium-sized practice, a dentist, whatever, that's sufficient. If you want to go a major step beyond that, then you can do physical testing. Somebody like DeQ, you know, they offer services, consult with, can help you find an agency that can help you do that type of testing, where in that scenario what you actually do is you have a real human being that looks at the website and uses actual physical devices that somebody with a hearing disability or is visually impaired would use to analyze your site. And so, yes, you could do that. It is expensive. And especially if you make a lot of changes to your website on a frequent basis. And then you want to make sure that every time you update your website that, you know, you're retesting, you could be spending thousands of dollars a month on that type of testing. It's just, you know, it's commercially not viable for you to do that. You know, for a dentist and a small primary care practice, especially, and even for, you know, more high margin stuff like orthopedic, surgical, ASCs, and so forth. Like, that's a very expensive investment that you're making to like do this sort of manual testing. And that's why what I more commonly see are folks that, you know, rely on WCAG 2.1 single A or double A standard, where they're only using the automated testing. And my guess is any sales guy who's calling you and trying to, you know, pitch you on this using the scare tactic, that their agency is not going to be doing any of this sort of manual testing. So I hope this video was helpful. I'll try to do more of these in the future for folks. I'll try to get another talking head on here with me. Usually my wife joins me on these things as well. So that's a little bit more interesting, but I hope this is kind of, you know, helpful for anyone who's a small to medium-sized healthcare practice out there that's having to deal with this kind of, you know, what I kind of think is unscrupulous. Did I say that right? Unscrupulous. Fine. BS sales tactic. 9 times out of 10. All right. No intro card, no extra card. I'm going to leave it there. If it's helpful, great. If it's not, great, but hope it's helpful. See ya.